What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us on iTunes right now, go ahead and leave a 5-star review. I appreciate them oh so very much. I want to shout out some stand-up dates that I'll be doing in the near future. Next Sunday, August 1st, I'll be doing a secret show out in Cobb, Connecticut. This is going to be at a remote island location. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, it might be sold out. If not, contact my buddy Matt Mead on Twitter or Instagram, and he can give you details. I know we'll be shuttling people out to and from with boats. It's going to be a shit show. It's going to be a lot of my drunk friends and Compound Media fans. It's going to be wild. It's going to be a lot of throwing up, but it'll be fun and comedy. And then I'm going to be heading back to the Jersey Shore August 12th. I'll be at Bird and Betty's in Beach Haven, New Jersey. Then I'm getting on a plane going to New Orleans. New comedy room just opened up out there called the Comedy House out in New Orleans. New Orleans, I was told, is the way to pronounce it. So that will be August 13th and 14th. I'm doing 4 shows out there. So I would love to see you out there. I haven't been to New Orleans in a couple of years now. I'm very excited to go to Cafe du Monde and eat a bag of sugar and fried dough. Excited to do an alligator tour. Last time I was out there years ago, I did an alligator tour. I saw like one tiny alligator. So I need to see some big ones, if you know what I'm saying. So doing New Orleans, and then I'm going to be back to Vegas for Comedians of the Compound, September 10th and 11th. All the Compound Media comedians are going to be out there that you know and love. Anthony Cumia, Aaron Berg, Gino Bisconti, I think Don Jameson and Pat Dixon. We're all going to be staying at the Plaza Hotel, like down on the Strip. Like it's like old Las Vegas. It's like by Fremont Street. So it's the Plaza down there, and the comedy club is called the Comedy Works. So we got 4 shows out there in Vegas. Would love to see you guys. I know there's weekend passes. I don't know if there's more available, but certainly you could probably get a ticket if you haven't already. Let's see what else. And then I'm going back to Texas for headlining a bunch of shows in Dallas. It's Hyenas out in Dallas there, September 17th and 18th. Would love to see you guys out there. I love Dallas, and I'll probably be out there for several days beforehand, doing some appearances at the Blaze. I love going on Elijah's show. I love doing Chad's show, Sarah Gonzalez's show. So I'll see all my people over there at the Blaze for sure. Love Texas. I feel like that's going to be a place where I end up going like 2-3 times a year, you know. I think it's the next best thing to like moving out there, is just going out there as much as possible. All right, cool. So I'm doing Vegas, Dallas, and then Comedians of the Compound. This October 16th, we're going to be doing a stadium show out in Lakewood, New Jersey. And then I just booked 4 shows for out in Santa Monica, California. Broadway Comedy Club West out in Santa Monica, October 22nd and 23rd. So yeah, would love to see you guys out there. I'm going to probably plan a whole LA trip. I'm going to see all my LA people. And I announced this yesterday on the live stream, but I'll say it again here. All those shows that I'm doing at Broadway Comedy Club West, I'm going to have my good friend Bridget Fedesi featuring for me out there. So that is going to be awesome. I'm reaching out to a couple other people to host. So these shows are going to be real fun. Can't wait to see you guys out there. Yeah. And quick shout out to my sponsor, Cushy Dreams. They are my go-to for all things CBD related. Go to cushydreams.com. That's KUSHY dreams.com. They specialize in CBD rich bud and joints. I love these 5-packs. You can get different indica sativa blends like Relax, Dream, Create, Hustle, Peace, Energy, whatever you want to do with your day, man. Cushy Dreams has your back. You can enjoy all the health benefits of CBD without getting high. And best of all, it's grown here in the USA. It's 100% legal in all 50 states. Join the men and women who are sick of vapes and gummies and want to smoke their CBD. They're constantly doing tests for compliance and purity. You can see all these results on their website, cushydreams.com. And at checkout, use promo code CMP to get 20% off every order. All right. enough with that. I'm so excited to have this girl on the podcast today. I have been a fan. I have been an admirer for afar for quite some time now. She is a Bitcoin enthusiast. She's a Playboy Playmate. She's a writer. She's a red-pilled, awake hottie. She's a photographer. She's the ultimate babe. I'm so excited to have her here today. Jessica Vaugn, how are you?
Hi. Well, you're the best hype man ever. I need you to be with me all the time and introduce me. That'd be good.
I would love to join. I'm putting myself over here because I know the chat, if the live chat, I would rather have it over me than over your beautiful face. Yes, I would love to be your full-time hype man.
Yeah, we'll have to travel around together a little bit and see how it goes.
Looking good, looking great, Jessica. Are you an LA person? Are you a Texas person? You're moving to Texas, right?
I'm in a state of transition. How about that? I'm originally a Kansan, but I've been in LA the last decade, so I wouldn't call myself an LA person, but I was certainly so grateful to be here and have this time here. But it's not the same place that it was when I came here, so I don't know. Have to usher myself out here coming up pretty quick.
Yeah, nothing is forever. I go back and forth on New York too. Like I have certain things holding me here for sure. But there are many days where I'm just like, I could see myself in Florida. I could see myself in Texas. I have family all over the country, so it's just tricky. It's like when you have a breakup, right? And I feel that way towards New York, and maybe like you feel that way towards LA. It's like you're mourning the loss of like what something could be. It's like the potential or how
Mm-hmm.
great they were at one point.
Well, and
Um,
I like to stay in a state of gratitude, and all the time, everything in LA, I look out my window because it's another gorgeous, radiant day, and the Hollywood sign's right out there, and it always reminds me, all the reasons I came here. Um, but I don't want to. I don't want to stay in love with this place when it's been ruined. I mean, it's a disaster. So um, I don't know. It's hard to refocus. Hard to refocus your visions because I'm sure you like New York. You live in New York, right?
Yeah, yeah. I live in like a
Yeah.
suburb. Like the last 4 years or so I've been, like 45 minutes, 40 minutes outside the city. And at first when I moved out here, I was like, "Oh, it's going to be the death of my career. I'm so far away from all like the city clubs." I thought it was going to suck, but now like since the last year and a half it's really been an asset because you can build out a studio. It's anybody can have like streaming or put together sketches. It's like you so don't need to be close to a comedy city. And
Well,
now
and the
it's like it's really crazy. Now all these big comedy clubs are mandating vaccines, which I am so not in support of. And it's like, and people will say, "Oh, well, you're not passed. Like you're not passed at the comedy store. You're not passed at the comedy cellar." It's like, ooh, but you know what I mean? Like you can take that off your goal list of things that you want to. It's insane that they're requiring that stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah, we're fractionalizing. I'm sorry to hear that. I've seen a couple comics talking about that in Hollywood. So as you know, this is a really big comedy hub, and I feel so lucky to have gotten to be in the hustle. I have a producer friend, Jay Davis, that was at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood. So I got to go to all kinds of people practicing sets and just early shows and just come in whenever I wanted. And so I felt like um, comics and models and people that were in gig economy, like we could relate to each other really well. And I don't think that there's another city that can relate to the devastation that the lockdowns have caused to LA in my experience more than New Yorkers. So I feel for you.
how long were you living out there?
In LA?
Yeah.
Well, I'm still here. I'm still in Hollywood right now. So
Oh yeah. How
I
long have you
have,
been out there?
yeah, I guess off and on I've moved a little bit, but since like 2010.
Yeah, that's significant. So it's
Yeah,
pretty
and
crazy. Yeah.
every time I move away, I'm so depressed about it. I mean, I love being here, but the writing's on the wall. I mean, what more can I do? It's only going to deteriorate from here. And they're talking about more rounds of lockdowns, and They reinstated the mask mandates, and none of that was a surprise to me. The shutdowns woke me up, like just lifted the veil over, from my eyes, and it's definitely been an opportunity to recalibrate and reconsider everything that I ever believed. But
yeah,
got to do it at some point.
You gotta do it. You gotta it's like you jump in the cold water. You're like, oh shit, it's hard. At some point, everyone's got their time where they can't avoid it. And those are the lucky ones. And I've heard you say on past podcasts, like you're sort of, when people ask you about your red pill moment, if it was one moment, and you'll say like it sort of happened in bits, and then also kind of all at once. Like if you could point to a single moment, or like was it the first round of lockdowns for you that woke you up, or
Yes,
is it more like expanding your circle and meeting different people?
I would say, it's interesting because you can always look back and say those were some moments that I ignored that should have woke me up. But things in context and hindsight are obviously it's easier to put it all the pieces together. So once the lockdowns came, I gave it the 2-3 weeks that they were asking for, and then I started listening to some alternative opinions about what was afoot, and I considered it, which I think intelligent people do. They consider ideas even if they don't believe in them. I mean, don't you want to form your own opinion based upon the facts at hand? And who's to say what the facts are? We're talking about opinions, right? So the shutdowns definitely woke me up, but it was, of course, it's stretching into 2 months. By the 1 month mark of shutdowns, it was over for me. I mean, I was just angry at Gavin Newsom, and so I liked this criticism of Gavin Newsom, and the threats began to recall him in about 2 months into the shutdown, because the levels of personal invasion and the infringements on personal rights were just excessive here and in New York.
So you were starting to question anything, everything that was going on before the shots of Newsom out to dinner, maskless, before he was like caught out on the weekend or whatever it was.
Yeah, because there were a lot of historians, or at least historically educated people that were saying, well, when we've seen this in the past, these are what authoritarian takeovers look like. These are the ways that they set the table. These are the things they say. They often go with the whole greater good, these kinds of things. So as soon as the language started changing from the politicians and facts weren't lining up, and truth was just being shrouded, as a fair person, that activated in me that maybe I wasn't on the team that was being forthright, and I can't do that. It was in conflict with my personal values. So I had to investigate what the truth was, and I just reevaluated absolutely everything once I started down that path. And because he insisted that my governor insisted that I sit at home, I had nothing to do except have all day and night to go investigate and dig into it. And that was to his detriment. If he hadn't interrupted my life, maybe I would never have uncovered the truth about the intent of these people. So
yeah, you give millions of people all the time and all of the internet, and some of us are going to end up down some rabbit holes. Like a big moment for me was, it was like the first flight that I had gone on since the lockdowns, and I was like, oh, I was thinking it was going to be every other row, every other seat. I thought every flight I was going to go on in all of last year and even this year was going to be like, and I was like, oh, they're selling every seat on every flight I've been on. Like, that's laughable.
Well, they did that every other seat thing for a couple months, but of course they were trying to keep with the concept, the appearance that they were reevaluating every few weeks and every month, and but as soon as they went to full capacity on the airlines, I mean, it was so obvious because, and when you have special interests that go and lobby with the leaders, of course they're going to get special treatment, just like the teachers unions and these other types of groups. And airlines definitely weren't going to suffer from this. They were unwilling.
You mentioned that you had stumbled on like alternative media and like alternative information sources. Like, what were some of those sources that, you know, made you start to go, things are not as what they seem?
Well, I mean, I had already found the podcast world, so just natural, Joe Rogan is my podcast home base, as I call him, and then of course from there, all the delineating guests, and so I'd already built a world filled with thought leaders that were outside the mainstream, and that helped because it was an ushering in. It was a more natural transition because I had already established some credibility and trust with these other voices that were not CNN. But it happened almost immediately that I wanted to turn the TV off. I just looked sideways at my TV and felt like that's definitely a propaganda mechanism right there. So I'm going to cut it out of my life, which I did almost immediately. I was never really a big TV person, but going cold turkey, you know, it's pretty easy with the whole integration of podcast life into my world anyway. So I found Tim Pool, one of my friends, had been working me for a while. He was like, oh, he was trying to build up all these reasons, even before the shutdown, as to why he was voting for Trump. And I thought that was a crazy idea at the time. And but he would always make these intelligent arguments. And I think that's what contributed to being able to change my mind, was the fact that I never demonized people on the other side. There's this idea that, you know, these people are that citizens that believe something different and vote differently than you are evil. But like I said, I'm from Kansas. I grew up with conservatives. I never believed people right of center were evil, to whereas a lot of leftists in Hollywood do. So it's going to be harder for them. I think that they will have the opportunity to get there if they want to, but some people are so committed to being right that they're just unwilling.
Oh, absolutely. And they don't spend a lot of time talking to people who they deem the enemy, and they exaggerate their position to be kind of cartoonish almost. I feel like people on the left, they're just if you're not on on the radical left with them, you must hate gays. You must like
yeah, which is
care
so
about
absurd.
hate all poor people. It's like these sweeping generalizations.
Yeah, having no idea about the things that got us to the point that we're at, or who our friends are, or even how we identify in our attitudes, or, you know, the implementation of our beliefs in our own personal lives. Like, how could somebody that doesn't know you know any of those things? So identity politics just seemed pretty stupid to me, because there are all these exceptions. So it was I would say a natural open mind that allowed me to be flexible enough to leave behind old ideas.
Absolutely. And you coming from Kansas, so you're growing up around maybe more conservative minded folks, and then you get into
Yeah.
modeling, which is every time I talk to another comedian or somebody in the adult industry, like it's a default very leftist industry. Everybody you work with, it seems like all your coworkers, everyone
Mm-hmm.
around you is more kind of on default on the left. Did you experience, so even though you came to the world of modeling, okay, you're like, you know, a lot of conservatives, you know, a lot of people on the right, was it a big adjustment, like in the modeling world? It's just okay. Did you feel like you had to hide your political opinions or anything like that?
Well, remember, this all happened during a shutdown. So one thing that had happened was there was a halt in production entirely. So there were some Hollywood productions that were allowed special circumstances that they could film in their closed sets. They had to overhaul everything. I mean, they were putting tape on the floors to where you could walk, and then people had to like Lysol the air around them, and like
Oh man.
absurd
Oh.
things, just
Hmm.
ridiculous things. Because I'd known enough people in film that I was watching it all unfold in the way that they were, you know, gathering in secret to, you know, do things like deliver, you know, cinema lenses and things. Like it was pretty silly to watch, but as far as the people that are non-union, I mean, what were any of us going to do? I mean, gig economy is tough enough anyway, but then add on top of it that people act like you're carrying the plague, or that they're going to get shut down. And, you know, I understood it all in the beginning, but then I knew, and then they started doing things like, if you're coming to a casting, you have to have a COVID negative test, all these things that definitely just made me feel unwelcome because I felt like I was participating in a fraud, this hustle being executed upon the whole world. Who wants to do that? I mean, just to go around people to go to a casting, I mean, it just seems so such a waste of my energy and effort to invest any more into these people. So I didn't have to defend my attitudes and beliefs. I mean, everybody was locked down for the most part, except of course the people that chose not to. So, but I took the stay-at-home orders seriously the first couple months because what was I going to do? I mean, it was detrimental, but all of Hollywood stopped, and I was already a person that my work is really fun. So all the things that are entertainment based in my life are centered around my work, or at least I've designed my life that way. So there wasn't anything I was particularly compelled to go do because everything centered around my production. So yeah, it's hard. It's still hard. It's still emotional to think about because of how, and not that everything was perfect here, but it was so good. The life that you were free to design in the city. I just unplugged from it naturally. Of course, there was an artificial push to unplug, but it felt so. The whole conversations around anything that I could possibly go do on set was filled with all this like irrationality and the things that people would say. None of it was landing with me. It all felt like an episode of Black Mirror. Like I just it felt Twilight Zone-y, and who wants to live in that life?
Yeah. And I feel like at this point, anybody who is still being like, hey, wait, aren't these our basic freedoms? We're being taught that our basic freedoms, to fight for them is to be considered a selfish individual and to not care for the masses. It's really wild. It's like this.
Well, and it's so manipulative.
So fake to me. Yeah, it's very manipulative.
Yeah.
Did you feel, and I want to like rewind back because it's like it used to be things were so great, and I know when you first I think you were 2012 centerfold in Croatia. Was that your first Playboy appearance, or was it 2011? I was trying to do some research.
No, oh well, thank you. Yeah, I did the Playboy centerfold in Croatia in 2011, but I had done other stuff with Playboy Italy and some other things, and the US edition does like Cyber Club, and so I was like Cyber Girl of the Week and things like that. So there was other photo sets that I had done, but not the printed centerfold. So I did that in 2012, and then I did it again in South Africa in 2014.
How was Croatia? Yeah. I've heard that's like kind of like fun Euro trash, like spring break destination. That it's like when I asked my friends like where to go.
I heard the beaches are great. Yeah. Oh well, you're gonna have to ask somebody else because I shot that in LA in a Cuban club, so I I haven't been to Croatia. But
man, okay, I thought they flung you out.
No, I wish. I'm trying to get that vacation if they want to reconsider. So.
Have you ever been to the Playboy Mansion?
Yes. And I'm so glad that I got to do that while Hef was alive. Like I didn't know a lively Hef. I mean, he was pretty just sedated from old age there for a number of years, but it was really nice to meet him and go to the mansion. They would do these things called Sunday Fun Days, where it was just Playboy models, playmates, and Hef and his intimate friends. So he would have like 5 guy friends or something, and they'd play chess, or we'd play arcade games, that type of thing, swim in the grotto, just generally hang out and have lunch together on a Sunday, which was really nice.
Aw, that's really fun. So what year was this that he was sort of starting, like the age was really catching up with him? Was this like after the centerfold?
I'm trying to remember when I was there. I was there with another model, Carlotta Champagne, and I remember our pictures, and we got chased by this giant bird that was later on an article that like Cesar Millan was trying to whisper to this like giant emu.
Bird?
I remember ran us into the She and I are gonna have to do a little piece rehashing that story because it's hilarious. I think people would like that one. But I'm trying to remember. I remember all like the fixtures around it, but I'm trying to figure out what year that was. I don't remember. 2012, 13, maybe. I can't
Okay,
remember. I
yeah.
can't remember. I can't even remember when it was that he died. What year that was.
God, I
It's
can't
all soft
either.
dates.
It
It
all
all
gets
blends together.
it all blends together. Yeah, how was it just the one time that you went there, or would they kind of like invite you back kind of periodically? Like
Oh,
how did that work?
there were semi-public parties that would get hosted by, other groups that would come in and do like holiday parties, and I'd been for that. So I can't say I was I didn't have a bedroom or anything, People ask about
People
the
got
bedrooms, but
bedrooms?
yes. Well, remember the girlfriends, Hef's girlfriends, they would
Oh,
give
yes.
them
I loved
rooms and
that
they would redesign
show.
them.
I
Yeah,
love that show.
I never watched the show. I don't know. I missed that era, but I knew that was some just from knowing the girls. I knew that was kind of a thing. So yeah,
Did you meet Hef? Like, did you, talk to him like one on one, or was he just kind of around?
yeah. He wore the robe that one time I went there on a Sunday. He was there with the robe, the robe, and I remember how slow he turned around and like it was like a movie, vignette of him like turning around and seeing his face and shaking his hand and stuff. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, wow. That's so neat. Yeah. I feel like it's like a real moment in time. It's just something that, like, anybody who's been there, I'm sure they have you like sign like NDAs, like don't talk about what you see, or like what happens in the grotto stays in the grotto. Like I've heard that from different people that have been there. Not
Oh
even
man.
models, just regular people.
We signed release forms to be photographed while we were on the property, so I assume maybe some of that was in there. I mean, it wasn't real hush hush. Obviously, everybody that was there knew that we were at a semi-public event type of thing. So, even though it was controlled audience, and we all the girls for the most part, I mean, trust each other with all that stuff. So, but it was tame daytime party. I mean, I'm sure it's been historically more interesting. Other situations where you might have to sign those papers, but
Yeah, that's
it's in our
cool.
code already. The code is
Have
who
you
we are. The
did you
NDA is
become
etched in us.
did you become like friends with a lot of other like playmates, or like, you know, bond with a lot of the other girls who were either at the mansion, or just like in working with them?
It's the modeling industry overall. You meet and bond with these girls in different situations, before or after playmatehood, I suppose. Um, I would do a lot. Well, I do hair and makeup too, and now I'm a photographer. But at the time, I wasn't. I suppose like that's been in the last couple of years that I picked up a camera myself. But just from networking and trying to fill positions for photo shoots I was producing, I had several girls that I would work with all the time that were playmates, just because they're like very marketable and good at what they did and recognizable faces. So it was easy to have a rolling handful of them to plug into photo shoot opportunities and pass work to each other. And yeah, it was a nice experience. I'm still friends with quite a few of them. I don't see them as much as I used to, just because people get married, have kids, move away. We get locked down by governors. I mean, there's reasons that I suppose we're not as integrated as we once were. But
And have you always been pretty vocal about your beliefs? Like, I've just noticed, like, your Twitter is fire. I was like, I love this girl. I love your feed.
thank
I just like
you.
love everything that you're putting out there. It's not everybody feels like they can be super brave and just say what they think, and even just like and retweet people they agree with. It's crazy. A lot of people are afraid of losing their jobs. Have you always been pretty outspoken in this way, or just since, the lockdowns?
Well, I felt like there was some um, call. Like I heard a siren, with the shutdowns, and when it all started making sense to me, that I knew that it was very important that everybody that saw this for what I saw it for was willing to speak up. And the amount of people that I knew in personal, the people in Hollywood that I knew agreed with me just from talking to them, but were unwilling to say, or more like they're a cog in a machine that's been decided for them. you know, there were like production studios in Hollywood where they were donating to Black Lives Matter, like during the riots. And, you know, they did it for that protectionary reason, to be like, we just want to be not bothered by this. We don't want anything to come by. It had nothing to do with ideological alignment, and especially not the people involved in the studios. When you think about how diversified opinions probably have to be inside any given production set. So, yeah, it's something that feels like a personal calling to me. But just because so much of what I see is in violation of the truth, and whatever people's reasons are in, you know, their own right, we can go round and round and justify why we're not the one, and diffuse that responsibility of all the reasons why I just don't want to get too much attention, or, you know, flagged by people that'll come and hurt me. Like, but think about in the past, like, people died to keep this country free, and now all that we have to do is say when something's wrong or unjust. Why wouldn't we all be compelled to do, like, why? I don't understand how that's an opt-in, opt-out type of situation. And and then when I just started seeing all the censorship and everything, it just made me willing to double down, because I feel like it bolstered the belief with which I was speaking. I feel like if people saw what I was willing to lay on the line, and willing to walk away from all this life that I had built for myself, which I loved. You know, I loved my life. I didn't want to take a 10-year investment that I had made into my brand and light it on fire. But for the truth, I'm willing to do that. For what's right and what's just, I'm willing to do that. It feels like it's not even a choice I'm willing to make. I mean, I don't know how I would sleep. I don't understand how. And I didn't feel like I was a particularly heavily moralized person or something. I'm not a church on Sunday kind of person. I just value the truth, and I thought a lot more other people did too. Who really upset me are the public figures that know behind the scenes they will tell you their personal opinion, but then they'll go say something quite contrary, you know, because they just don't want to deal with the repercussions personally for it. And they're if you know and you're unwilling to say the truth, or at least not contribute to the dishonesty that's circulating, then you're a part of the problem. Now those people are very wrong for that. Now, I don't know if I want to call the people that are being hoodwinked currently, I don't know if I want to call them, you know, immoral or evil or bad people or liars. But the people that know what they're doing, that are doing it because they see some ideological end that they're trying to get to, that they believe in the end. And it's just, or they just think that because it's such a pervasive web that's been designed with all the powerful people, right? That they think that it's gonna win, so that they just are tagging along with the lie because they picked a winner. So, but by that, you're just guiding more people down to an end that doesn't have to be that way. If more people were willing to say, I don't know what's gonna happen in the end, or whatever may happen, I'm just unwilling to go along with it for my own personal gain, then you might change the entire direction of what's happening. And I'm just one person. I'm just trying to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, regardless of the ending. And the red pill is a really hard thing to swallow. So it's easy to become hopeless, because it's so eye-opening and so intimidating of a reality, and it changes it just my life, my perception of the world and everything I thought got turned upside down on its head, except for some foundational beliefs, which now I can itemize and defend because now I've had to whereas before the world didn't ask me to. I mean, inside my own head, I had to have values to guide my behavior, but I was the only one suffering from the consequences of deviating from them, or, people in my immediate circle of life or something. But But now our beliefs are dramatically impacting each other. This idea that I'm going to deny other people their freedoms because I'm afraid. I mean, how do you think that you can just violate these boundaries between people? I mean, that's absurd to me.
Yeah, it does seem very like Hunger Games-esque. And just what you were saying before, like I think a lot of folks and entities just don't think that they'll ever be in danger. Like you're saying, these studios that are just donating to Black Lives Matter, like they've essentially been bullied into donating to a cause they like may or not believe with, but they're just like, yeah, we don't want our studio like lit on fire. We just want to like appease the angry mob, and we're gonna post the black square just so we like, get them to shut up right now. And I think a lot of folks, like, they've never had to fight for rights in their lifetime. They don't think the hammer is really going to come down for them. Everyone's got their different, breaking point, and you can't force like a red pill moment on anybody. And anyone like listening to this who's talked to like friends and family, and you try to, ask them questions, you can never force it. And nobody ever wants to hear that they're wrong or they're brainwashed or they're a sheep or they've had their head in the sand. It's particularly hard with like people you care about. And I think it's always just good to just, ask questions. Because you can never tell anybody what to think.
Anytime I think I'm smart, I remember what kind of personal invitation it took for me to open my eyes to what's going on, because now it seems so obvious. Like, but I try to give myself, I try to forgive myself for that, because there wasn't so much in the world to look at that was personally impacting me. And I mean, that's, I guess, the state of being a selfish human being, that we're just all self-operating, worrying about our, our own destiny, or our own center of the universe. But for the people that don't see it for what it is, I mean, what more are we? Or I know that I remind myself, regardless of what I actually think about this question, are we past the point that, like, are you just willing to stay ignorant at this point? I mean, because it seems so obvious, but the only reason that I believe that, obviously we have to, because we have to make more people wake up. But I don't know what more personal invitation people need to see other than a full interruption of their life. I mean, I think that it's also because a lot of people are seeing improvements in their life, because remember, the government has put a price on your freedom and given you a stipend to just go with the flow, and they like that type of exchange.
Yeah, and it's focusing on the short term. It's like, well, terrible. Maybe someone lost their job, but I can like mooch off the government and endlessly collect unemployment. And now it's like, now we're seeing, I'm sure lots of folks as they travel around, even domestically, locally, around the summer, like, man, a lot of places are lacking a lot of help. And people are just like, wow, there's one bartender at this bar. We're all waiting like 20 minutes for a drink. It's hard to get people to work, and it's the consequences are so far reaching. And yeah, it's hard. And I don't know. I know I've lost a lot of friends, people who I thought were friends, acquaintances, like in the comedy world, right? Because like I've sort of positioned myself like more, I don't know, who even knows what to call it, right? Like sometimes I want to put myself in a group, sometimes other people want to put me in a group. Who knows? Libertarian, truther, just not far left, whatever you want to call me. I've definitely lost friends along the way.
We did. I don't think we even had to really consider these hard lines before. I mean, there wasn't politics in every aspect of our life the way it is now, because everything is a tip off to what people believe in, which is why I have no interest in going into production and giving myself away, or choosing to silence myself. I mean, but everything that would come out of my mouth would be a dead giveaway, because it's what I think and how I see, and everything is so politically identifying now. Identity politics is awful, and I'm it's like being a center right person now, or at least coming from being a non-radicalized liberal, that doesn't vote for liberals anymore, never can vote for anybody in the Democratic Party because of everything that I believe about the system now. It's just, I don't want to, I don't know. It's hard to even think about. I mean, it's not fair because we're people too. We should have been able to go and do our gigs and do our things without being worried about, politically being, like feeling this hostility from people that we do care about. But yeah, my not only has my audience transitioned and essentially flipped. I mean, my professional alliances have as well, and it takes a lot of years to build these things. And so the battle lines are drawn, and that's not what I wanted for my country. I mean,
but it's almost like they forced your hand. Like the pressure to pick a side and choose a team is coming from all directions. And
I worry that's on purpose.
yeah,
I mean, in a big way, it's a way to make you comply with all of it. If you want to be here and have, mainstream approval, and you want these, acting
connections. Yeah.
opportunities or whatever, if you want to be a part of this, then you have to accept everything that we feed you, every position. And I don't feel that the right of center people ask that of me at all, which is why it's such a diversified environment and why it's so interesting to listen to commentary from the personalities center right, because they're not all echoing the same things. You can pretty much predict that everybody on the left is going to have the same perception of, the Simone Biles thing, which I don't personally understand why people are so fixated on, but you can pretty much determine what their positions are going to be on current events. But right of center people are all over the map on most things, and I never necessarily know what they're going. Maybe it's because it's new terrain for me, but I never know what they're going to say, which makes it much more interesting.
I think the Simone Biles thing, and like I've had my reaction on it. Like, I did some high school gymnastics. You know what I mean? Not to brag, but like, and I've said, like, yeah, ultimately, from my limited knowledge standpoint, you should probably just do it no matter what. Try your hardest. Like me personally, a mental breakdown would not stop me from competing in the Olympics. I am somebody who would compete until I was physically injured. I would push myself to the physical limit. Yeah.
Think of how many breakdowns you've had to have mentally to like even get there, that you push through. I
Yes,
mean,
my
how hard
God.
is it to qualify?
It's happening weekly, probably. It's just, and you would think that that an Olympic athlete has more like mental strength than the average bear. It's like, yeah, we're all
Stamina.
like mental health is very trendy right now, and everyone's starting to be okay with the idea of therapists. That's great, but at the end of the day, like if you're getting to the point where you're even being considered for the Olympics, like you're gonna have more going on, and you're gonna be stronger than the average person. Like, and of course, people are like, oh, remember Carrie Strug? She vaulted on a sprained ankle. Like, it's always, oh, remember Michael Jordan? And just like, we all have examples of people who we think worked harder. But I think, like, yeah, Simone was like really propped up. And I think she's so much, especially on this issue, like, you know, I think we're hearing about it more because people want to further the race issue. I think the media wants to start a fight over Simone Biles, and I think they want it to be race related. They've really propped her up. She's definitely one of the best for sure. Like tons of endorsements, right? But I just think that if Simone Biles were white, we wouldn't be hearing, and the media would not be obsessing over her dropping out of whatever, the all around tournament. It's just that there's this added obsession because she is Black, and I think they really want to stoke like a race fight. And right, without knowing her personally, it's all speculation. How tough or entitled she is or isn't. Or whatever. It's just like, it's just another thing to distract us, right? It's like another thing to kind of fight about. Have you noticed any, and you were kind of hinting at it before a little bit with your, like work connections, like have you lost friends? Have you had people who have like drawn the line in the sand about you since you're so outspoken on Twitter? People that are like, oh, I'm not going to work with her, or talking shit or anything like that.
Well, remember, it's one of those soft. Just because your phone doesn't ring, you can't predetermine that it was gonna ring. It's just a damaged relationship, and nobody can ever like historically verify what was going to happen. I mean, but our contracts dissolving before my eyes or something that I can, hold up to you. And to be honest, I don't even think very often, unless they were deep personal friends of mine or something, which is my responsibility to resolve if I want to. But right now, I really just don't want to. I don't want to fill my life with people that are unwilling to hear my position. I didn't choose to kick people out of my life because they politically identify some other way. It's just these are the way that vibes not being aligned anymore work. I mean, things just fall off. You're not motivated to write them back. You don't want to go to meals with them. You don't want to go, create media with them. It just naturally starts to disconnect. And that's more what happened to me. And also my interest that are developing now are not of interest to them. So why would I want to go petition them to do things aligned ideologically with something they want nothing to do with? So I mean, it's a lot of things seem personal that aren't really personal at all. And for the friends I had that fell out of my life, based on the belief system that I now embody, it was just time. It was just naturally time for it, because I care about the truth and I care about being authentic to myself so that I can live with myself and so that I can have a worldview that I feel is most aligned with reality as it is, which is of course subjective to people enough already. But I just, it's no love lost, I guess. I mean, everybody's got to make these determinations for themselves, and there's never been a better time in our lifetime. I mean, I never thought I'd live through this. Do you? I mean, I didn't.
Yeah. It's made me stronger, though.
I remember in school hearing about biological weapons being discussed, that would be a fixture of the future, just in passing. And I can remember hearing it in classrooms and like looking around at people, wondering, what that would look like for us.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that we would grow up to be the adults that had no idea what to do with it. I mean, that was absurd
and not
to
even
me.
and the fact that we're even fighting over whether or not to call it what it is.
Oh
Which,
yeah, I mean, see,
yeah.
that's the thing, is like, see, I would just go. See, what would I do if I went on set and we're all talking and I'm with all these people that believe something completely different, and I didn't even, when I said it as a biological weapon just now to you, I forgot that was controversial because it's
Right.
so obvious to me, and it has been for 16 months now. So I mean, if truth is just splitting us this much, like, I just don't, why, what would I have to get out of that? I mean, I don't want to make people upset for no reason, for that has no purpose to like challenge what they think and opt them into something, like defending their positions and arguing with me. I mean, like, people just want to go and, hang out with their friends and stuff. So, and that, unfortunately, that's what I turn everything into, because that's what I'm thinking about all the time. But I also have the right to make friendships with people where I can talk about the heavy things I'm thinking about, because these are the heavy things that they're thinking about.
It's definitely unmasked everyone's kind of like intellectual curiosity, right? Like,
Or
and
lack
that,
thereof.
or lack thereof, absolutely. And in, yes, we've lost people, but like, I know I've made some really great friends and
Oh yeah.
connections in the last year. So I know you've made some good new friends and connections, maybe a new boo from all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and life brings you, if you run full throttle towards what you believe, and especially when it's, curiously starts looking like the purpose for your life, or at least life in the next, 5 years, I feel like we're definitely just dedicated to this cause. That life brings you all these surprises that are good, and you start looking around like wondering, oh, maybe this is, a blessing in disguise, all these things. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely an opportunity. Go ahead.
I saw in one of your IG stories that you may have been behind the scenes at Alex Jones, where then Mr. Michael
Yes.
Malice was appearing there. How did you
Yes.
guys meet? Who made the first move? I'm loving
Oh
you guys
boy.
together.
Oh boy. I found him as a guest on Tim Pool, and um Tim is such a apex predator with this stuff. Like, he's so good that
Yeah.
I just noticed when Michael was on, I was like, oh, this is and not to bring down any of his other guests or whatever, but I was like, look how this guy Michael is like pairing with Tim, and so they just complemented each other so well. And then of course that's how the rabbit hole to anybody else's content and their various networks work is. Then I was like, oh, he was on Rogan, and then I watched that, and so then you just start engaging with the stuff that they're saying on Twitter, and so that's kind of how that unfolded for us. But yeah, he sent me a message and was like, hey, I'm gonna come out and be on Bridget's show and some Dave Rubin, and gonna just connect with them. And so
Bridget who?
I definitely Fedisi.
Oh yes, of course. I love her. Oh my gosh. She's one of my favorites.
Yes, that's what he says too. So
yeah, Michael is so great. I met him through Compound Media, and it really wasn't until after he left his show on Compound Media, because he was focused on writing 2 books, and he still had the show on Gas Digital. It wasn't until like after he left that like I had like, I don't know, such appreciation for him, and he is one of the smartest guys, and like without outing himself as like a comedian, so funny, and just has a way of putting information out there in a way that's like easily digestible. Like I find with somebody who's like very, very smart, there's, that doesn't mean that you can like serve up what you know in a way that's like digestible kind of for like the masses, which how would you even do that, right? Like it's like you appeal who you appeal to.
Well, and so gutsy, right? I mean, there's a lot of I don't want to call them fringe ideas, but there's a lot of unexplored ideas about the potential of how things could be structured in a society that we've never even seen. And he's really gifted at that. So I took note of that. But also, just because it resonated so much with me doubling down on my belief that we needed to be gutsy and honest. I mean, he's so full of both of those things. So
yeah, he'll like dress up, like didn't he like dress up to do like Lex Friedman, I'm like saying his name wrong, like dressed up in like the like opposite like a white suit. Like he's just so funny and kooky, and there aren't enough people
who would
like
think
that.
to do that?
Yeah.
Yes, always surprising. Just I and honestly, I needed hope again. I mean, like I said, the red pill I gave a whole year, but you can spiral down and stay in that dark place, and then you can spread the hopelessness without being aware that you're doing it. And he gave me and a lot of other people an opportunity to be reminded every day, just in his attitude and disposition, to not do that, and the responsibility that we have to stop promulgating hopelessness. I mean, who wants to be like, saying what you think is a good thing and red pilling other people, I think is very important right now, but you can't stay in that dark place. I mean, what kind of like, who wants to stay in an ideology where everything is hopeless and that we're all, screwed? Like, that isn't anything that's appealing. But I gave myself a year of that sobering reality, but he was the first, what he calls the white pill. He was the first to give that to me. And that's really special, because if we don't re-energize and make people believe that we can win, that truth and freedom can win, then what are we even sitting here, you and I, talking about? Like, we should just go jump in the ocean and wait for a shark to eat us if there's no hope. I mean, which, if you think about it, is so obvious that we have to stay optimistic. So he's really gifted at that.
Yeah, like knowing the truth, it's like it's a responsibility, and like what you do with that, whether it's him through like his podcasts or his books or his appearances, and like hopefully me, whatever the hell I'm doing with it, like through comedy. And it's like I always use the example of like the Care Bear stare. Like we're all part of the message, whatever. We're all on the same team, but we all have slightly different colors. So we're like hitting it at slightly different angles, and then we're attracting different people into each of our kind of orbits. But yeah, I ultimately feel like, yeah, you gotta, no matter how much you know and how dark and how bleak it might seem, like do whatever it takes to keep yourself upbeat and hopeful, and I hate saying like self-care, but like whether it's a
Yeah,
mantra
truly.
or yeah, a certain like reading certain, I mean, I feel like, you know, reading like Michael stuff or watching his appearance, like if you can just laugh about where you are and always be like, okay, always have hope, like it's just so important. Because what
Well,
good
the
are you
people
if
that
you're going to be
right.
depressed?
It makes you ineffective and depressing to be around, and honestly, like you start to become, it's almost makes you just as bad as the people that don't get it yet. They don't understand what's happening. Um, because you're dragging everybody else down that's trying to, float. So you better get to floating and becoming a life raft for other people, because what else are we doing?
Be a life raft. I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah.
All right, couple
Thank
super
you.
chats. David Delara, I did a photo shoot with Jessica around 10 years ago. Refreshing to see someone from the modeling world get red pilled and be outspoken. Do you remember David Delara?
I do remember that last name. I wish that he had said what state maybe he was in, because I traveled around all over the US doing shoots. So, well,
Ooh.
hey, David, if you can send me a message or something, that would be cool.
Send another
Maybe,
$5. No. From Michael Henley, thanks for the super chat. Congratulations, Chrissy. You are hitting some people's nerves. Trolls have found you. Oh, girl, I am no stranger to trolls. The trolls love me. It makes you stronger. It helps you get a thicker skin. I'm sure Jessica gets a ton of trolls as well.
I do, but I've found that they are fortifying and also a metric to know that you're doing something right, because they could go do anything in the world and there they are bothering you instead. So
My favorite thing has become like there was this one troll recently where I was really like mostly I will not feed the trolls. I will like not respond because I always try to remember like just respond to love. That's a good way to just operate in the world of the internet, you know, like just respond to love, right? Because you're going to waste time. If someone's just bringing at you like their own shit, like you are not going to fix them or they're not here for the argument. They're here to work out like their own inner hatred or jealousy or whatever. But anyway, there was this one troll, and I was like, not even like make an example out of him, but I just wanted to like follow his logic. And he just kept bringing up like my looks, and he kept saying, "You're too old for this, da da da. You're a grifter." And I'm like, my looks and my age have nothing to do with what we're talking about. And the
and
fact that
also you're beautiful and young, so I mean, how ridiculous.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Oh,
some people, oh, Austin. Okay, well, that had to be like, I just went to Austin, um, we just discussed about going, on Alex Jones with Michael, right?
mhm.
The last time I was trying to describe that trip that I had shot with David, because I was trying to remember the last time that I had been in Austin, and it had been literally a decade, which is crazy. So, yeah,
Ooh,
for the refresh in memory, I remember now.
I love
It's
it.
changed a lot. Austin has changed a lot.
Oh, hell yes, it has. Like I was there at '06, and then I was there just a couple months ago for Comedians of the Compound show. And even though I was just on 6th Street and just in like the surrounding area, oh my God, it was like just overrun with homeless. You had to like step over them to get to the venue. It was wild. Freddie Jokers in a currency I don't understand. Thank you for the NOK dollars. NOK dollar. 20 NOK dollars. What is that? Norwegian? What are those? Norwegian shillings? Appreciate it, bro. Row House, is Hollywood's power to control and drive the culture and politics dying off? How powerful is it still? Ooh, I feel like they've turned off a lot of people, and it was building on the momentum there already was because people were already checking out of award shows. People were already sick of hearing celebrities posture and virtue signal, I guess. I mean, it's hard because to me, it seems like Hollywood's toast. But then again, like I'm in this skin suit. I don't know what
Well,
everyone's
I I
thinking.
think I think Hollywood is just like the media, mainstream media, in the way that they're just an extension of the Democratic Party. So really, it's their
Hmm.
PR department. So they're going to be safe and set, and they're always going to get automatic contracts for this or that, and all the things that grab the attention of the mainstream audience, that don't know what they're looking at. So it's too pervasive to think that you can ever pull the plug on it completely. but they're losing believers. I mean, look at what the award shows do, but that's a metric
Ugh.
of the interest of general people, not just the fact that people like you and I have opted out dramatically. I mean, it would be nice to know, like, I mean, I just don't, I care less, but like I live in Hollywood, so like I'll be like, why can't I get home today? Like the traffic spot, it's like, oh, the Academy Awards are today, and so it's like fun to participate in. It would be fun for me, but now I feel like I'm participating in a fraud when I go, and even to tweet about it and push traffic that way, like it's silly. I'm not doing that anymore either. I mean,
It really
they can never
does.
reclaim me.
It really does feel like the bubble. Yeah, sure, the bubble popped, but it's like, oh man, like just what you thought of Hollywood as a little girl and, like, even just as it's starting in comedy, what I thought, like, "Oh, if you could make it into the Hollywood of comedy, like, whatever that would look like," and to just know exactly what you said, like, Hollywood is not a representation of the best or the most talented or proof that hard work trumps everything. It's like, "No, man, they're a fucking arm of the Democratic Party." Like, they
Oh yeah,
are basically government employees. Like, they may or may not, aka
well, they're
definitely
creating
are
these.
brainwashing people to
Yeah,
like
they're
promote their message.
Hollywood's purpose is to keep the illusion to the masses, to make it look like popular opinion and everything in the world supports our beliefs. And if you have an alternative opinion, if you get brave enough and want to say you believe something different, we'll make sure. Like I don't understand what it was that made me never ask, why does everybody in the world hate Ted Cruz? How does he keep getting voted in
Mm.
if everybody hates Ted Cruz? But that's what the TV will tell you, and you will never you'll never get told a valid reason. It'll just, there's just this tone, there's just this default mode, network happening around you that you just think everybody hates Ted Cruz. Well, then how could he possibly be keep getting voted in? It's because of the pervasiveness of the illusion that's built and structured around supporting these mistruths, or at least only supporting one side of the argument. And that's what Hollywood does, is to add to the illusion that they're the only belief in town.
And I think something the right or the center right or conservatives or libertarians, like everybody who's not a radical leftist, something that they've done well, I think, over the last year is when they do refer to Biden in the presidency, they will do tongue in cheek, like most popular president ever, most votes ever, like most like most loved presidents, like millions, millions more
Mm-hmm.
votes. Like they will poke fun at that because it's it's just a very simple fact. Like it's just hard to believe, right? And the many examples of like you have Trump fans still coming out to Joe Biden appearances just to give him the finger to boo him and still after all this time people coming out with their Trump flags and we're supposed to believe that this guy that things weren't super fortified and helped out.
Yeah, for some people that never even bothered to campaign, it was sort of silly to like look at that compared to like, the like in Pennsylvania during the campaign, like the crowd size that Trump drew, and now they can never fill, a stadium. But they of course knew not to pour resources into that because it was unnecessary. For what? For the illusion. They just had control of
Right.
the television. They'll just make it to where the media doesn't circulate images of their empty audiences, and like so only, we're in on the fact that they have no reflection in reality to substantiate these claims of being the most popular
The
voted president
most
in history.
popular
Yes.
from Row House. Hollywood makes everything political now. Do you remember when you saw movies to have a good time? Do you remember when you saw movies to have a good time? Yeah, now any movie not political, Disney movies even, yeah, everything has become political. Everything is pick a side.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to so many people like movie critics, TV critics, culture critics, comic book people. It's just become so pervasive and it's like infected every part of American culture and the things we've loved and grew up on for years. Just fucking our nostalgia left and right, ruining our memories. It's like, it's pretty brutal. One more super chat quickly from Channel Julio. Hollywood is a piece of the totalitarian puzzle. The puzzle is complete once the Dems control local policing. They are failing through the defund campaign, so now they are expanding the Capitol Police. Scary shite. True.
Or
True, it is
federalizing the police. Can you imagine if the feds just come in and deal with every local problem? Like,
yeah, it's so silly. It's so silly. It's like having a police officer be like a middle school like hall monitor. It's just like, really? Do we need all this?
yeah,
Okay.
imagine the biased heavy-handedness that we would see on a federal level, especially. And then they talk about things like federalizing the voting systems and the voting processes. Well, there's a reason that we don't have all of those things federalized, is because they're easier to corrupt and distort and rig that way. I mean, we like states' rights for reasons to protect against those sorts of things. So,
Oh yeah. Really quickly from Brian, have you ever gotten angry at a partner during a scene?
oh, he thinks I'm a porn star, I think.
Wow, I had a porn star on yesterday, and maybe there is confusion. I do probably have a lot of fans who are like, they see a pretty girl and they assume that she does porn.
Yeah. Well, these are Playboy titties.
True. They're pretty fantastic. Okay, really
no,
quick.
So the answer is no. The answer is no, but I've gotten angry at a couple photographers a couple times. So there's that.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my partner on a shoot, would be my photographer. So
Some of them getting too fresh. Freddie Jokers for 50 Norwegian shillings. That's just what I'm calling this. Why isn't it considered election interference when Hollywood celebs advocate for specific candidates to their hundreds of millions of followers? Very good question, because it's entertainment. They have a platform. People can right, like maybe they say freedom of speech, or like celebrities can do whatever they want, when really it's not whatever they want. It's their marching orders.
it kind of falls under free speech, right? I mean, but if you lead a church, you're not permitted. Your freedom of speech is denied to you at the pulpit because of your tax exemption status. But Hollywood people are not under that tax exemption, and therefore they're not controlled. In fact, I imagine a lot of times that I'll get certain casting calls to do political things, or things that have a political undertone, and they never even ask me my opinion. They'll be like, "Oh, Jessica, we think with your audience, we want you to do this thing to advocate for Planned Parenthood and discuss this is an actual something that happened this year. And we want you to talk about all the great things that Planned Parenthood does, blah, blah, blah." Well, while it's not a political message, it's obviously very politically charged. And they didn't even ask me my opinion. They assumed I had a default position that would work. And more importantly, don't I want this, $500 to do this ad? So, yeah. So I sometimes think that politicians, or that celebrities are getting behind politicians or politically charged subjects, because it's the default. You're just opted into blue pill situations. You don't really think it through. That definitely happens in Hollywood, especially when there's a paycheck attached to it.
Absolutely. And it's been going on for decades, for a very long time. Even like pre-censorship, celebrities have had their kind of like political marching orders, and have always been kind of like a wing of the government. It's just nice that like more and more people are kind of like seeing the light. Let me see here. I know people get upset when I put a super chat up because it blocks Jessica's titties. That was happening last night too. Awesome. Jessica, this was so great. Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Fun.
You're such a delight and a joy to talk to. Where can people find you and follow you, and what's coming up for you?
Oh, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the usual. Follow me, Jessica Vaugn. Vaughn is spelled with no H because I had to be difficult like that. So VAUGN. Please follow me, but Twitter is my most active playground. So come join the conversation.
crushing it on Twitter. Jessica, oh my God, another super chat. Hail,
Ooh.
Chrissy from CC Thorne. Hail, Chrissy. Jessica, huge fan of your work. I am in the Air Force and would love to hang a pic of you in my locker anywhere we can buy your merch. Oh my God, I love that. That's so old school.
Yeah, I need to set up some sort of a merch store like that, but I don't have anything for you right now. But I could pop one in the mail if you send me a tweet.
Ooh, I
Send
love
one your
that.
way.
Send me one too while you're at it. I need one for my locker.
Yeah, girl, I got a lot for you.
Jessica, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on the pod.
It was so
Love talking to you.
So fun. Let's do it again.
Yes, definitely. All right. Thank you, chat. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the comments. Love you guys. Bye.